We are reading from the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. This is chapter 23. I believe we have to start from text 6. 6. Grishme Panchatapaviru Varshasav Asarasan Muni Akanthamatma Shishire Udake Skandileshayah. Following the principles of forest living and the footsteps of the great sages and munis, Prithu Maharaj accepted 5 kinds of heating processes during the summer season, exposed himself to torrents of rain in the rainy season, and in the winter stood in water up to his neck. He also used to simply lie down on the floor to sleep. These are some of the austerities executed by the Gyanis and the Yogis who cannot accept the process of Bhakti Yoga. They must undergo such severe types of austerity in order to become purified of material contamination. Panchatapa refers to 5 kinds of heating processes. One is enjoined to sit within a circle of fire with flames blazing from the 4 sides and the sun blazing directly overhead. This is one kind of Panchatapa recommended for austerity. Similarly, in the rainy season, one is enjoined to expose himself to torrents of rain, and in winter to sit in cold water up to the neck. As far as bedding is concerned, the ascetic should be content with simply lying on the floor. The purpose for undergoing such severe austerities is to become a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, as explained in the next verse. Titikshuryatabhantanta Udvareta Jitanjali Jitanjilama Adhiradhyayishu Krishna Acharattapa Uttamam. Maharaj Prithu underwent all severe austerities in order to control his words and his senses, to refrain from discharging his semen, and to control the life air within the body. All this he did for the satisfaction of Krishna. He had no other purpose. In Kali Yuga, the following is recommended. Hare Nama Eva Keva, Kalo Nasti Eva Nasti Eva Gatiranyatha. In order to be recognized by Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one should chant the holy name of the Lord continuously, 24 hours a day. Unfortunate persons who cannot accept this formula prefer to execute some type of pseudo meditation without accepting the other processes of austerity. The fact is, however, that one must accept either the severe method of austerity described above to become purified, or take to the process of devotional service recommended for pleasing the Supreme Lord Krishna. The person who is Krishna conscious is most intelligent, because in Kali Yuga it is not at all possible to undergo such severe austerities. We need only follow great personalities like Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In the Shikshastak, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wrote, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the holy names of Lord Krishna, which from the very beginning purify the heart and immediately liberate one. Bhava Mahadava Nirvapanam. If the real purpose of all yoga is to please Lord Krishna, then the simple Bhakti Yoga system recommended for this age is sufficient. It is necessary, however, to constantly engage in the service of the Lord. Although Prithu Maharaj executed his austerities long before the appearance of Lord Krishna on the planet, his purpose was still to please Krishna. There are many fools who claim that worship of Krishna began only 5,000 years ago, after the appearance of Lord Krishna in India. But that is not a fact. Prithu Maharaj worshipped Krishna millions of years ago, for Prithu happened to be a descendant of the family of Maharaj Dhruva, who reigned for 36,000 years during the Satyuga age. Unless his total span was 100,000 years. How could Dhruva Maharaj reign over the world for 36,000 years? The point is that Krishna worship existed at the beginning of the creation and has continued to exist throughout Satyuga, Treta Yuga and Dwapar Yuga. And now it is continuing in Kali Yuga. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna appears not only in this millennium of Brahma's life, but in every millennium. Therefore, worship of Krishna is conducted in all the millenniums. It is not that Krishna worship began only when Krishna appeared on this planet 5,000 years ago. That is a foolish conclusion that is not substantiated by the Vedic literatures. Also of significance in this verse are words Arinadhyayishu Krishnam Acharat Tapa Uttamam. Maharaj Prithu underwent severe type of austerities for the express purpose of worshipping Krishna. Krishna is so kind, especially in this age, that he appears in the transcendental vibration of his holy name. As is said in the Narad Pancharatra, Aradhito yadi haris tapasa tathakim. If Krishna is worshipped, if he is the goal of advancement, there is no need for one to execute severe types of tapasya, because one has already reached his destination. If after executing all types of tapasya, one cannot reach Krishna, all his tapasya has no value. For without Krishna, all austerity is simply wasted labor. Shama evahi kevalam. We should therefore not be discouraged just because we cannot go to the forest and practice severe austerities. Our life is so short that we must strictly adhere to the principles laid down by the Vaishnavacharyas and peacefully execute Krishna consciousness. There is no need to become despondent. Narottam Das Thakur recommends, Anande bolo Hare Bhaja Vrindavan Shri Guru Vaishnava Pada Majai Aman. For a transcendental blissful life, chant the Hare Krishna mantra. Come worship the holy place of Vrindavan and always engage in the service of the Lord, of the spiritual master and of the Vaishnavas. This Krishna consciousness movement is therefore very safe and easy. We have only to execute the order of the Lord and fully surrender unto Him. We have only to execute the order of the spiritual master, preach Krishna consciousness and follow in the path of the Vaishnavas. The spiritual master represents both Lord Krishna and the Vaishnavas. Therefore, by following the instructions of the spiritual master and by chanting Hare Krishna, everything will be alright. Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport here how the worship of Krishna has been prevailing eternally. It is a misnomer to think That Krishna worship only began after Lord Krishna's appearance 5,000 years ago. But Krishna actually comes in every millennium. So specifically it is stated that Prithu Maharaj did perform all his austerities to please Lord Krishna, for the pleasure of Lord Krishna. जय श्री श्री निताई जान गौर चांद भगवान की जय, श्री जगन्नाथ बलदेव सुभद्रा महारानी सुदर्शन महाराज की जय, श्री प्रभुपाद की जय. The process of bhakti is not just the offering of love to Krishna. No doubt, bhakti means offering of love to Krishna. But the process of bhakti is simultaneously and parallelly having the purifying potency. And therefore we see one of the prominent aspects of the processes of bhakti yoga is to somehow or the other bombard oneself with the transcendental vibration of the holy name and the holy glories of the Lord. That is one of the prominent aspects of bhakti. Why? Because our hearts are not pure, but by bombarding and constantly associating with the transcendental glories of the Lord, we get purified. The process of purification becomes much more prominent. So the more we, now that means in bhakti, the more we allow the transcendental glories of the Lord to purify us, the more we can get purified. You see, the principles of preaching, the Shavanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam, that's one of the prominent principles. And the prominent principle is deity worship. And the prominent principle is Vaishnava Seva. You see, all these principles are revolving around connecting with higher energy, higher transcendental energy, and therefore surrounding oneself and getting absorbed in higher transcendental energy. Therefore, the Bhakti Yoga process, which is recommended to all of us, the Bhakti Yoga process, which is recommended to all of us, is very purifying. So we can say this is Krishna's special mercy or concession for us. You see, in the previous ages also, without see any other yoga system, without having come to this platform of unalloyed devotional service, no one can go back to Godhead. Developing that love for Krishna, no one can go back to Godhead. But to qualify one to be able to do a good service to Krishna, the process and pathway was a very Herculean one. Ashtanga Yoga. Here we see Prithu Maharaj, just to please Krishna, is performing so many rigorous austerities. Panchatap, as is explained. So surrounding himself with the fire, and he's surrounding himself with the torrents of rain and cold water and sleeping on the floor. Why? So that he can control his mind and senses, so that he can serve Krishna nicely. That's the whole point. So Prabhupada is emphasizing on the purifying potency of bhakti out of compassion for all of us, because we cannot do nothing more than that, or much more than that. And therefore the Lord and the Acharyas very mercifully have given us the process, no problem. You start serving Krishna, and in the process of serving Krishna you get purified. So we may never qualify. But Krishna is telling no, don't focus on qualification. You focus on purification and move ahead. Focus on purification and move ahead. That's what the Lord is telling. Now, the next point is that now, although so there's no doubt about the fact that the process of bhakti is very powerful, and there is a lot of mercy channelizing through this simple process of bhakti. At the same time, the principle what Prithu Maharaj is highlighting is a noteworthy principle. Prithu Maharaj wants to please Krishna. So therefore Prithu Maharaj is performing austerity to get control over one's mind and senses. And very rigorous kind of austerities. So no doubt about the fact that tapasya or austerity can give us a better handle and control of our own mind and senses. Owing to which we can offer better service to Krishna. Therefore, a devotee doesn't. Therefore, a devotee doesn't want to lead a comfortable, cozy life. Austerity and tapasya can help us. So, as far as possible, we should try to stretch ourselves on this platform of austerity and tapasya. Now, what kind of austerity and tapasya? Now, we don't have to surround ourselves with fire or cold water or lie on the floor. We can put a chatai and mat and foam and chadar and everything, no problem. That is all fine. So, in the process of Krishna consciousness, the austerity and tapasya is, or we can say, see, what kind of austerity is recommended for us? The kind of austerity which is recommended for us is not, so indirect as surrounding a fire and all. The kind of austerity and tapasya which is recommended for us is also much more direct, much more direct. Actually, in Satyuga, people were very pure. And because they were very pure, it doesn't matter to them that they go a little bit indirect, work out, get some mental strength, and then come and directly serve. But for us, it may be hazardous. We go indirect, we may drown in false pride, ego, envy, everything, and not be able to come back. So therefore, the austerity recommended for us is also quite direct, in direct touch with Krishna. So what is the austerity recommended in the process of Bhakti Yoga? So the tapasya or the austerity is to go on serving Krishna. The tapasya, the austerity which you can follow is to go on serving Krishna. To steer forward the preaching mission of Krishna. That's the austerity you can follow. It's austere. It's not cozy. Just practice is sometimes cozy. Just practice is cozy. You can sit, get up in the morning, chant around, cook some good bhoga, offer very nicely to the Lord, partake of the Mahaprasad, have a nice feast. So cook good, offer good to the Lord, take good feast, Uh, so some regulated earning, and so that's still cozy. That's quite cozy, And in the evening, read some Bhagavatam and take rest, So that's still cozy. But if you add service in that, preaching service, it means running around. People are not reciprocating. Some people are getting obstacles. Some people insult. Some people, some people don't turn up. Some people abruptly, show some different colors. So many factors come into picture. So that kind of austerity is very good for us because it can help us control the mind and the senses. That's the point. Another austerity or tapasya which is recommended to us is to always stay in the association of devotees and cooperate with devotees. Sometimes it is heated, there's a lot of fire because of some misunderstandings, clashing interests, and these things keep on happening. So sometimes doing services together is fiery. But that's the austerity is recommended for us. It can help us control our mind and senses. So we should stretch for service, and we should stretch for service in the association of devotees. We should stretch for service and service together with all the devotees. That is the kind of austerity or tapasya which is recommended for us. It's very direct and it's very purifying. So there is no other need of any separate, dry, rigorous module. This itself can be purifying, but this is quite direct. So that's what we should try. Along with a steady bombardment of the holy name and the holy glories of the Lord. क्रमानुसिद्धेन दस्तकरणामनायश प्राणजने सन्निरुद्ध षड्वर्गश्छिन्नबन्धना. By thus practicing severe austerities, Maharaj Prithu gradually became steadfast in spiritual life and completely free of all the desires for fruitive activities. He also practiced breathing exercises to control his mind and senses, and by such control he became completely free from all desires for fruitive activity. The word pranayamaya is very important in this verse. Because the Hatha yogis and the Ashtanga yogis practice pranayama but generally do not know the purpose behind it. The purpose of pranayama or mystic yoga is to stop the mind and senses from engaging in fruitive activities. The so-called yogis who practice in Western countries have no idea of this. The aim of pranayama is not to make the body strong and fit for working hard. The aim is worship of Krishna. In the previous verse, it was specifically mentioned that whatever austerity, pranayama or mystic yoga practices Prithu Maharaj perform for the sake of worshipping Krishna. Thus Prithu Maharaj serves as a perfect example for yogis also. Whatever he did to please the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. The minds of those who are addicted to fruitive activity are always filled with unclean desires. Fruitive activities are symptomatic of our polluted desire to dominate material nature. As long as one continues to be subject to polluted desires, one has to accept one material body after another. So-called yogis, without the knowledge of the real purpose of yoga, practice it in order to keep the body fit. Thus they engage themselves in fruitive activities, and thus they are bound by desire to accept another body. They are not aware that the ultimate goal of life is to approach Krishna. In order to save such yogis from wandering throughout the different species of life, the Shastras warn that in this age, such yogic practice is simply a waste of time. The only means of elevation is the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. King Prithu's activities took place in Satya Yoga, and in this age, this practice of yoga is misunderstood by fallen souls who are not capable of practicing anything. Consequently, the Shastras enjoin Kalo nasti eva gatir anyatha. The conclusion is that unless the karmis, jnanis and yogis come to the point of devotional service to Lord Krishna, their so-called yoga and austerities have no value. Naradhita, if Hari, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is not worshipped, there is no point in practicing meditation or yoga, performing karma yoga or culturing empiric knowledge. As far as pranayama is concerned, chanting of the holy names of the Lord and dancing in ecstasy are also considered pranayama. In a previous verse, Sanat Kumar instructed Maharaj Prithu to constantly engage in the service of the Supreme Lord Vasudeva. Karmashayam kratitam Utgrataham Utgratayanti Shanta. Only by worshipping Vasudeva can one become free from the desires of fruitive activities. Outside of worshipping Vasudeva, the yogis and jnanis cannot attain freedom from such desires. Now the word pranayam does not refer to any ulterior motive. The actual aim is to strengthen the mind and the senses in order to engage them in devotional service. In the present days, this determination can be easily acquired simply by chanting the holy names. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada explains very beautifully in this verse, highlighting what was Prithu Maharaj's goal. No doubt Prithu Maharaj was practicing pranayam. He was practicing breathing exercises. No doubt Prithu Maharaj was doing great austerities, which cannot be imitated. Such kind of austerities. But it is very interesting to see that Prabhupada is highlighting Prithu Maharaj's heart or desire or objective. Prithu Maharaj wanted to get rid of fruitive activities. So he wanted to gain control over his mind and senses so that he can get rid of fruitive activities. And so we get rid of fruitive activities, then when one engages in bhakti yoga, ahitati apratihata bhakti yoga, jnana karmadhi anavritam, pure unalloyed devotional service. That was Prithu Maharaj's goal. And he wanted to gain control, and that's why he was doing austerities, and that's why he was doing pranayama. So therefore, and then Prabhupada is telling the problem is, now the problem with a yogi is that a yogi is not aware of the purpose of all his austerities. And therefore, a yogi is also compared to a child. He's simply he's simply running after toys. That's all. So the siddhis are just another kind of toys. Instead of electrical batteries, it runs on cosmic batteries. That's all. The battery is made out of cosmic energy. That's all. It's not electrical energy, it's cosmic energy, isn't it? So it's not much difference. It's not much different. It's just playing around with cosmic energy. That's all. It's not much different. Like say for example, this expanding into 8 forms. It's not much different from manufacturing robots. Is it not? Not much different from manufacturing robots. Whether a hardwired robo or a virtual robo. It's not very different from that. It's the same thing, is it not? Toys. And making them do the same activity is not much different from motion tracking. So the original person raises his hand, all the robots raise their hand. So what's the big deal in that? It's all deep learning, that's it. And the robots are watching, this fellow raise hands, they also raise hands, is it not? So he has a Wi-Fi transmitter, so he is giving a signal, I am raising hands, so everybody also raises hand. They said, okay, I am also raising hand. So that city is not much something unique, is it not? Play toys. Play toys. Uh, so unless one knows the purpose of austerity, the austerity is described to be shram eva hi kevalam, waste of time. Is it? Purpose has to be very clear, is it not? So the purpose of fasting is not weight loss. The purpose of fasting is not weight loss. The purpose of fasting is to be engaged more and more in Krishna service.